Okay, so have you ever worked on a project where collaboration was the key to success, and what did you learn from that experience?
So in my research, actually, collaboration is very, very important, especially because my research is very applied. So one of the projects I worked when I was a master's student was developing this like teddy bear looking robot that goes into pediatric hospitals. And obviously, as a roboticist, I don't know anything about hospital. I know how to build a robot or program robots, right? But in order to really understand how to create robots that are helpful for children in the hospital, staying in the hospital, like I really needed to work very closely with the hospital staff. So the approach I took at the time was, initially, I think in the lab, I developed, like with my colleagues at the lab, we developed this robot, and then I, created some kind of interface to control the robot for this hospital staff. And then I brought it to the hospital and then showed it to the staff, and they were like, yeah, it's not going to work out. Mostly because, there are like certain things I just didn't know about the hospital context and like some of the experiences that these, patients go through, right? They're not, typical children who are healthy in home settings or in the school setting, right? A lot of the children in the study was, kids were who were very, very sick. So, they're very anxious. They're in pain. They're surrounded by people who they don't know. So, even just like, big gestures of the robot could normally, a healthy child in a home setting might be, oh, that's really fun and cute. That could trigger some anxiety or stress for them. So, I really had to work very closely with the child life specialist at the hospital. And then what I ended up doing is like for that while I was working in the project, instead of going to the lab where I would usually go, I actually I would just work in the hospital. They gave me a small desk in the basement, so not a very fancy place, but I just tried to spend a lot of time with the hospital staff, really like talk with them, not just about the project, but what the types of work they do, how do they care for their the patients at the hospital, how do they what does their do their like normal work day look like even, right? And then try to really imagine how if this robotic technology becomes part of their work routine, how would they envision it, like using them in the patient care. So, I think so. And then, so based on, after the first experience of, showing them the robot, we sort of like set up like a weekly meetings where, they would give me some feedback on the robot or the interface. I would, modify based on their feedback. I bring it back to them on every Friday. They try it out again, give me another feedback. So we did that for at least a month or two. And then once, they were like, okay, this is ready to go, and then we started the pilot testings and conducted a randomized clinical trial that led to pretty nice papers afterward. So that's to say, really, it's really important. Even if you think like, oh, I'm just going to be an engineer or scientist or a mathematician, especially a lot of the things you will be working on might be how implemented in the real society, and you really need to think about how those are going to be impacting people's lives, right? So the worst thing. What you don't want to do is like, I'm gonna create this awesome technology for the sake of creating it, and then see, oh no, it derailed. It went. It got used in a different way than I expected, and are creating this negative consequences in the society, right? So you really gotta think of, even when you're developing and designing, you really need to be very mindful about what are gonna be the social impacts of these things that you're creating, and you really need to. It's really good to incorporate or include the stakeholders in the design process. This is called participatory design or co-design in the human-computer interaction field.
Awesome, thank you.